Alrighty, we are back for episode 43. There it is. And today we are in the Fog Islands, and we have recently mostly finished our campaign over here. And I have finished selling all this random junk. Ooh. Um, let's see. Inventory, no. No. Map, there you go. Dialogue. So, lots of princes, lots of heavies. I have recently finished buying and selling a ton of random stuff, cleaning up the inventory. So nothing anyone being like, no, stop. They're probably dead. that many people eating, they're dead. Whoever that is, they're dead. They're almost gone. Oh boy, yeah. Half the princes aren't even eating. Okay, no, he's unconscious from, all the shit. Attack all. So we're going to rush this a bit more than we normally do because we want to not have all these people escape. Which is a real fucking risk here. Attack all. We do not want people escaping. That is the least favorite thing. Anywho, inventories of all the players are clear. Major things. Bought a ton of food. As you can see, the food is rather low still. I gave everyone some food until they were full, and then made sure everyone had 2 food. Also got some arrows for Green since he was completely out. Still need more food. Sold a lot of the meds. Anything that doesn't stack, gone. All the really big meds, gone. They last forever, they're great, but they do take up a lot of inventory space. And for a 5-stack, which isn't as big of a deal if I'm like using it forever. But that also means it's taking up how much they can carry, and I just have so much meds. It was insane. So all the single stacks of these, I had like 100 single stacks of these gone. There are a few that are like double or triple stacks that I kept, and lots of 5-stacks. But they're like mostly the basic first aids was like most of this inventory and a lot of that inventory. But we have so much standard kits which last a really long time, and we have so many splints. Like it was it was insane. It was way more than we needed. Like way more than we're gonna use in this entire playthrough. Really, we're never gonna have to buy meds again. At most, we might have to buy some robot kits because they're a bit rare. Install and update. You come over here. There's the prince over here. Loot him. Alright. So it's going to be a little bit more money. Go. Oh. That's a prince. That's a prince. So this is going to be a decent chunk of money because there's so many princes here. Finish him off. He's not finished off. Are you chasing a prince? No, you're not. You're heavy. Okay, so you're the one I was attacking. Oh, you're also a prince. Is Griffin dead? He is not dead. He is dead. Yeah, it looks like nobody's down. Just running around. Okay. Let's have who? Cloud? Yeah, Cloud. Come over here. Sure. Get that one real quick. I love me some Falling Suns. Alrighty. You're dead. Oh, you're gonna be dead. Get him. Not that one. Still fucking working. Because, like, oh, middle of an attack, I know what I need to do. Not deal with the attack and pray it goes away. That'll solve my problems. Not, let's see. I think that one. Yeah, he's got a sword. I haven't looted him yet. That one. I just need to make sure they don't run too far. I think I looted that one. Yeah. Sword 2. This isn't really the plan for this episode. This is what do you call it? A target of opportunity. Okay. So, dealing with the main center, whatever, around the poles. Pile of corpses. So for that one, let's go for that one. Echo Prince. Alright, Echo, you're up. That was dead. No, let's check him anyway. Okay. Let's check this guy. Yeah, nothing of value. Didn't think so, but, you know, it doesn't hurt. Not seeing a lot of princes. I think I got them all. Or most of them. I think a lot of these people running around, they're not by the poles, is usually this lower level fogmen. And the heavies. Lots of heavies. Oh, wait, no, there is one prince over here. That might be old. Yeah, these might be old. Blood looks not old. Ah, yep, there is one. He's probably just arriving to eat that body that we didn't take down. And that's why you don't take the bodies down when they're dead. Is that everyone? Nope, it's not everyone. Looks like there's a group of them. You guys are getting a bit far. What are you? Oh, you are chasing a prince. Well, that makes sense. Grab that. You got something valuable. Okay. You're chasing a prince as well. Damn. Everywhere I look. Okay. Come here. Come here. Hold. Hold. Let's give it a minute. Good luck. Anywho, this is going fairly good. So today, it's been a few days since I've recorded. The last time I recorded was like a kenshi episode was like half a week at least, maybe a week. It's been doing a lot of CK2 and also like job interviews and just finished cooking some tandoori chicken, which is amazing. Not nearly as hard as you think. It's essentially like, what if we cook it in the oven? But what if we, just have it on broil the whole time? Hold off. Finish off these guys real quick. I don't know why you're running over to this guy. There's some over here that you're not hitting. Yeah, it's like, I don't know what's going on. What if I put you to hold over here? Then will you deal with these guys? Yeah. Oh, I see a sword. We missed somebody. Alright. Could be all of them. Do we want to help these people? I guess. We can be a good neighbor to the enemy of our enemy, the Holy Nathan. Well, you guys are really not people who should be here. But you are here. Good for you, or whatever. Have fun. I'm probably gonna go sell some of that shit. Now that I now have, like, more stuff to sell. Even though these guys are pretty empty. We picked up a little bit of hass. Was it here? Somewhere. Somewhere. Was it Mongrel? It was like last episode. I picked up at Shops Mongrel, or maybe I picked up the Hive Village if we stopped there on the way. I don't even remember if we stopped at the Hive Village at some point. We might have. Anywho. We now have, let's see. What would be the easiest way to do this? 5. So, Cloud has 5. You have 3, so that's 8. 9. 10. Another 6, so 16. 17, 18. We have 18 heads. In one big raid on one place. That's not bad. That is not bad. He doesn't have money. Right, we already cleared him out. A lot of places are closing. The bars might have some money. I did buy all that food. Maybe they'll have more food. You have more food, man? Please? You don't have... okay, you're out. Well, you know what you do have? Money. If you can't buy these, you can at least buy the swords, right? I think what I'll probably do is train them all to a pack animal, make this a bit easier. Oh, right. Let's see. Do you? You don't. Okay. Who else had a lot of heads? You're good. Okay. Want to make sure I don't accidentally fill up inventory full of garbage swords that they might end up using. Like this. Sell though. Alright. Next bar is over here. I think what I'll do is I'll probably just go to like Eevee and he'll be the one and I'll just have all of them trade. There. I think it was Cloud. Nope, Eevee. Eevee. Dump. Dump. This will make life just a tad bit easier. There is like, what, 2 solos? No? Maybe I got them all. Yes, I did. Alright. Looking forward to one of them. Alright. Nothing too crazy. Mongol crazy, a bland. This is like a default, whatever. You're a default patron. You're an outlaw, this is a default patron. Alright, to the bar I go. We don't absolutely have to sell all of them, it would be nice. Alright. And you're out. Who's still open? This place is still open. And just that place. Because the tech workshops, they have beds in there. So they want to make this a place you can go in 24/7. Because it's also worth, like, in the upstairs you could go use a bed or a robot bed. So this is open all the time. This is nice for us. Anything we want to buy. Now that we have some space, one thing we might consider is skeletal repair kits. We're at 15. We're gonna get 2 more. Up to 20. And then that's like the one thing I'm like, we might run out of these eventually, because we do have a fair number of skeletons and robot limbs. And the more limbs we get, as people lose limbs, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We have 12 people who have lost limbs and have them replaced, not including robots, because I think one of them has, him. Change directory has a robot leg. So, even, like, besides the robots, there are also, like, 12 people who have robot limbs and use them up to repair their limbs. So that's the one thing where I'm like, okay, we could actually run out of this eventually. We have kits, but, like, for instance, like, here. Like, between those two, that's, like, not a full kit. I think I'll do that. And have people trade with Flareon. No, not you. I'll have you trade with Flareon. Anyone who doesn't have a full kit, like you, that one, I guess, stolen. It's not gonna work. How about you? It does work. You know, maybe it did work. Yeah, it is working. That one's stolen. That one's not stolen. I have to get this. Keep both for now. Whatever. Anything else that's that one. So we were at 20. We're down to 15 in the armory, or what else would you call this? Medical vault? Pharmacy? Storage? Eh. Yes, the game needs to autosave right this second. Okay. Lag my game out. Why don't you? Okay. Okay, you're not doing 10 out of 10. So we had 20, and none of these were empty, but a lot of them used up like a little tiny bit here and there. Some of them almost half, or more than half, but very few of them more than half. There's lots of like little bits and pieces here and there. And this will get almost everyone up to full. Okay, right, so this one's stolen, so I can't do anything to it. Alright. So, trade. Go back to you. Where's the rest of your robot kits? That's back to 15 where we were. Let's put us at 18. So we're at 18 kits in storage. And we still have fog princes. And we got 10 generator cores. We have enough for using exercise for a couple of people at once, which is really more than enough. Where to next? I really want to hit this last military base before we hit Blister Hill. And I'm not sure about Rebirth. We could hit Rebirth. There isn't any Inquisitors there. And with how easily we've been, at this point, taking out like military bases with Inquisitors, Rebirth is a walk in the park. The other thing I'm worried about is there's a lot of slaves, and it's really big. It could take quite a while to do Rebirth. Now let's come right here. Let's come right here. And nobody's on hold, right? Alright. So we'll probably go for a bit of a walk. We could do Rebirth. It's gonna take like a couple episodes, but we could do it. Question is that the best content? Do people want to see an attack on Rebirth, or is this gonna be like 2-3 hours of taking out everyone, looting everyone, running around, unlocking like the prison cells of like literally 100 prisoners as most of them run away, and we get like a few people who want to join us? But the vast majority of it's going to be like, nah, fuck off. Alright. That's all low level. Alright. Where's a good place? Sure. Right here. People catch up. We don't want our long tail of people marching to be too long. The part of the reason why the Mongols were so effective back in the day was the long trails of people traveling. It was, that was how they would do it. And when they spot an enemy, they'd stop somewhere, make a base. They wouldn't just immediately attack, right? and the way they traveled, like they were used to having that, time. They weren't used to like an actual surprise attack, right? As we sort of know and understand them today. So like when the Mongols showed up and they were like, "Yeah, we're going to do like tons of horses just charge you out of nowhere, and they're hitting you while you're moving around. They don't have like this." It wasn't really like what we would think of it nowadays as like we have the Geneva Convention, we have war laws and whatever. They had chivalry, and there were things that were honorable, things that were dishonorable. And if you did a lot of dishonorable things, other people would like ostracize you and be like, "Well, we don't want to like trade with his kingdom or be friends with his kingdom or make an alliance with his kingdom because they're dishonorable, right?" And so it was sort of like war crime, like a modern day equivalent of like war criminals, and like whether this country, their soldiers practice it, whether it's allowed and there's any punishment for it. Like if a country does commit war crimes, then we treat them differently than countries that don't commit war crimes, and that's sort of a incentive to not commit war crimes, right? I mean, say it's been more wolves. So there's something sort of similar with that, and that cultural like honor system was something that was completely different to what the Mongols were used to, being more of an Asian culture, being like neighbors with China. Like they didn't see things the same way we see them now, and because of that, they could, abuse tactics that other people wouldn't abuse. Well, not abuse, but you know what I mean? Like use a tactic that abuses a behavior that these people, the Europeans were doing, and the Persians and all the other people were doing because of this whole honor system. And like it was, that's not how you fight a war, proper war. But like they had their own ideas about how you fight a proper war, and so they, acted on those, and that gave them a big advantage. It's sort of like they fought basically like more no holds barred, do whatever, while these other people were like, "Oh well, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do whatever." And all this behavior limiting what you can and can't do is a disadvantage. It's your enemy has the thing they can do and you can't, so it does put you at a disadvantage, right? Like being the war criminal does give you an advantage, but it also comes with the disadvantage of like now you're a war criminal, right? And as a society, we try to make that like worse. But back then, they didn't have anything like that. Like they didn't have like a Geneva. They didn't have the Geneva Convention. They didn't have all these other countries coming together to be like, "Hey, stop that." And it was just sort of like this, not really a law thing, and nobody could defeat the Mongols. So, well, nobody could defeat Genghis Khan. Um, the Mongols do get a little bit more praise than they maybe do sometimes, and part of that is Genghis Khan himself was a genius. He basically never lost. He ran around all over the place fighting wars, and a lot of that was because, like, when he was around, nobody would rebel. And the second he'd go to do something somewhere else, people would rebel. And so he's always like running around from place to place to place, doing like a whack-a-mole thing. So if you've seen my CK2 games, basically that's and it was, for him, I'm sure it must have been extremely frustrating. Um, it's definitely extremely frustrating for me playing whack-a-mole with rebellions. But like, there's times when like, why didn't he invade India? Well, if you actually look, like he came right up to the edge of India, but if you look at like what he was doing, playing whack-a-mole, it's like he's too busy playing whack-a-mole with all these rebellions and all these people challenging him and whatever. Like his list of things to do was so long. Invading India was like not even like he knew it's like I'm never going to get there in my lifetime. And then theirs weren't they weren't Genghis Khan. Like they were good, but there was no Genghis Khan. It's like there was no Napoleon. There was no Achilles after them. You know what I mean? Like he was not like once in a generation. He was a genius. He won so many battles that when you look at the numbers, you're like, how did he do this? And basically, he was a genius. Like that's all. That's something you just. There's no other way, two ways around it. You just gotta be like, okay, he should not have won this on paper, but he did. There is something he understands that all the rest of us don't. You know what I mean? Like we're over here playing like checkers, and he's playing chess. Like he knows what he's doing better than we do. And that's why us looking at, his career many, many, many years back, and we don't even see the whole picture. We just see what we see, right? All this time later. We just see what's left, what's recorded, and most of that is not recorded by people who perhaps were friends of Genghis Khan or friendly and gave a true, honest, accurate, like unbiased recording of what went on. And it's a lot of it's like only from one perspective, which a lot of history is like that, but like more so for him than a lot of other people because the Mongols weren't very big on, recording stuff. They went all over the place. They did interact with a lot of cultures who were more big on like, hey, records, we need to record stuff, like, China or all the Arabic states. States, would that be the right word to use here? Countries? The Ottomans, well, they weren't Ottomans yet, right? Yeah, they weren't Ottomans yet. What is it? What would I call them? The various Ottoman dynasties under the, word, darn it. Arabic dynasties under the, not Sheikh, it's above Sheikh. The highest rank. The guy who sits in Baghdad. The word for it. Not Baghdad, but in, Mecca, or whatever. Although usually it did often become Baghdad during some period of time. Other times it was Mecca. What is the word? The person who is on paper the head of the religion. Ah, you missed. Man, you're better than this. Actually, you know what? Turn reins off. Have the pack animals finish them all. They have very high damage, so if they hit him, he's gonna take like 100+ damage. And they're unarmed, so I'm not too worried about getting hit. So he's instantly dead. He's gonna bleed to death. Green reigns on. Come here, little soon-to-be dead person. And he's running away. He's running to the walls, I assume? Ah. Well, there's a simple solution to that. I can just run over here, out of range. Can I hit that guy? Looks like a no. Well, we've knocked out a lot of them. Looks like there's 1, 2. I'm guessing Archer Boy got him. So 3. Now he's running away again. Sure, why not? Am I ready to just run in there? There's a couple guys on the walls. There's quite a few guys on the walls. They're still alive. They seem to be looking the wrong way. There's one. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. I think there's some guys up here, but they might have moved. Yeah. I think. Who are you shooting? You're not shooting anyone. You hit that guy. No, you can't. Okay. Let's reins off. I'll let them come a bit closer and then shoot. Apparently I hit him. Doing this. Leaving the pack animals. Attack off. We're gonna be taking some hit from some bows. This is sorta the way it is. We're gonna overwhelm the initial gate guard people real quick. That looks like... Yeah, the guy's sword. Looks like he went down? Maybe? Yeah, he's running away now. Get him! Use the force, Anakin! What are you doing, Wing Wing? I think Wing Wing is stuck. Put down. Wing Wing, come get that body. Looted of a sword. I have a job for you. Well, I'm not seeing anyone on the ground yet. We seem to be winning. They seem to be coming off of their crossbows to fight us. They also seem to be not fighting us in a particularly smart way. So that's good. It's sort of all piling the bodies in the street here. With this spot here, like you have these two buildings surrounding you. This is not a good place for them to fight when they have people on walls with crossbows. But they did fight here. Which brings up the question, why? Like, if you have an advantage, you need to use the advantage. What are they doing? Silly. Being idiots. You had an advantage and you gave it up. What's wrong with you? Alright. Bard, come loot that guy. There's a famous quote from one of the British generals when talking about Napoleon. Is whenever Napoleon is present, you have to redo the counts as if he had an extra 20,000 men, because Napoleon counts for 20,000 men. This is sort of like, yeah, if your enemy has like a military genius, it's not enough to have enough that you would win like normally. You have to have even more. Like you don't like the bare minimum you need to win is significantly more, because you can't like count. You can't discount that. You can't not count a genius as, more numbers than actually are there on paper. what's, you know, that's like one of those interesting bits of history is like, A, the British were like actually fucking honest and they're like, listen, we don't have anyone that's fucking good at this. We need to count him as like not this, his army. We need to count his army plus him, and he counts for a lot more than any of us because we're not his equals, which was true, but also like how many like times throughout history you read about like someone like the enemy has like some super genius commander, right? And the part of why he does so well is the other side refuses to admit he is as good as he really is. They cannot admit that this guy is better than them. Like the other side's generals are just like, no, I cannot admit this guy's better than me, right? Like that is normal. It's abnormal to be honest and be like, yes, this guy is better than me. They're Napoleon, they're Alexander the Great. He's a genius. I am not that good. We need to redo the math here and account for the fact that they have Napoleon or Alexander the Great or whoever, right? Like, it is so weird, you know what I mean? For that to act like it seems logical, but it's so weird for that, this people to just say, okay, fuck my pride. I want us to win this war. And the best thing is to just be honest and be like, yeah, we're not that good. He's better. It's like it's both like surprising and not surprising to like read about that in history of like people who you've never even heard of comparing themselves to like the greats of their time and being like, sure, we can beat him. We just need, this advantage here, and then thinking like, well, you're not counting for the fact that this guy's fucking, a genius. I think this is like not a genius, Like you gotta account for that. It's not enough to have like a slight advantage. You need to have like overwhelming numbers. Like Napoleon the Third, he was nowhere near Napoleon the First, but he had overwhelming numbers in like basically every fight against the Prussians during the Franco-Prussian War. Like, besides that, he would put himself on the battlefield because his ancestor put himself on the battlefield. But it was so much more risk for him because he's not fucking Napoleon the First. You know what I mean? He's not Napoleon the military genius. He lost a lot of battles. He lost a lot of wars. And because of this, he got captured. And because he was captured, that basically spelled the end for, like, if some of their losses would not have been so great if they didn't also lose Napoleon III. Because once they lost him, so much of the army was just like, well, war's over. They have our emperor, right? And it's sort of like ridiculous that like, why did he put himself at risk at all? There's no reason for him to do that. He shouldn't have done that, but he did. And the only thing that really makes sense is he thought he was Napoleon. I mean, his name's Napoleon, but he wasn't Napoleon. You know what I mean? He wasn't the Napoleon, and he wanted to be the Napoleon, who was a horrible person. Don't get me wrong. Like, he did a lot of stuff that was just flat out evil. Like, massacred lots of villages and did a lot. There's a lot of stuff that nowadays we'd be like, wait, that's a war crime. And like, sure, tons of other nations were also doing this, but like, it is still like not okay. So it's sort of like, do we like measure the person by like how, like what we believe is right or wrong, or by what, they, and like what their culture would consider like right or wrong at the period? That's another question. I don't really have an answer for that. But like he was a great general, right? He was an amazing general, one of the best that ever lived. He won so many battles that he should not have won. That, like he actually controlled more Europe than anyone ever. Like the Nazis, people seem to think, well, they control like so much of it because like all of France and Italy and Germany and much of like the Eastern European states and the Baltics and all of other stuff. But they did not control as much as Napoleon. Seriously. Right. Hello. I have bad news for you, my friend. You have fucked up. But a lot of Napoleon's control was through alliances, where he would defeat him in a war and make a deal with them, and they would essentially have to be his allies, or else. And join him in his wars, or else. He'd come for them. And so many countries like that he controlled, where it was kind of crazy. So he had a softer hand than the Nazis. He didn't have to directly own all of their everything. He would let their people stay, like their emperors or whatever kings, stay in power. In exchange, they would work for him now. So he controlled a lot more, but he also didn't control it in the same way. Hello. Why aren't you attacking? Anywho. Ranting about history again. So, one of the interesting things about Napoleon is he was obsessed with history. And so there was a lot of sword designs based off of stuff like the gladius, right? There was a gladius that I don't know how much he had to do with it. I know he was involved in its design. I don't know exactly how much he was involved in its design. That part is still a mystery to me. Uh, but it is, a more modernized gladius with the steel blades instead of like iron, right? And it was known to the French as a cabbage chopper because that was all it was good for, chopping cabbage. They didn't like it. So it's solid steel blade, right? You have the steel bit going into the handle, slash guard, the hilt, right? And the hilt is all steel, and all brass, solid brass, and it's heavy, and that's sort of a problem. It is very heavy. Trade. Like I've held some of the other solid brass examples that came out of that period, and they are not. The weight is not great. There are good parts and bad parts to the design. One thing I like about it is the blades were overly heavy because at the time the military sort of doctrine was like to overbuild them because that way they could use them longer. So it cost more initially in materials, but not like that much more materials. And the idea was, well, if it'll get sharpened over and over and over time and lose more and more material, and if we overbuild it now, then later it'll still have a ton of metal and we can still use it for like years and years and years, right? That's sort of like the idea. In practice, that was really, really bad because that means it's very, very heavy, which heavy is bad for this type of thing. You do not want heavy, very bad. trade. You know, let's have all of you come over here. All of you, yeah. You trade with you. So it was a bit of a disaster, but still, despite being known in the fronts by the fronts as a disaster, America copied it. Some other countries copied it. The gladius was not only used in France, and there was just like all these gladius swords all over the place for a long, long time. There were fraternal and Masonic organizations, and if you don't know what that is, um, it's complicated. In theory, they were like the Illuminati or the Masons, right? Masonic Masons, right? In practice, a lot of them were more like a church men's group that get around once a week after church and like hang out and like drink beer away from their wives and whatever. You know what I mean? Like it was more of like a vehicle to hang out with the boys, you know what I mean? Like for adults. Not like, the Masons or like what you would think of from modern literature. Some of them had religious aspects to them. Some of them didn't. So a lot of them did various types of charity work. A lot of them would do some political stuff. There was the GAR, which was the Grand Army of the Republic, made up of Civil War veterans, and they, so in, I think it was like it was after the Civil War, in like the first decade or two after the Civil War. I can't remember if it was like the late 60s or like 70s, 60s and 70s, not 19, not recent. The first the veterans, what do you call it? The VA, the Veterans Association, or whatever you call it, the thing that gives veterans help and support them monetarily with medical costs and disability and stuff, where it's like, okay, I'm a soldier, I went to war, I got my legs blown off, war's over, I need to fucking eat, and I don't have legs. How am I going to eat, right? How am I going to have a house to live in, etc.? And the VA was established to sort of help, because so many people who died or seriously injured. So VA was created to help with that. The Civil War, more people died in it than any other war in the U.S. So it was, you cannot understand how bad it was, how many people were hurt. And a lot of them, like, the VA was this brand new thing. A lot of them needed help. A lot of them, there were also various organs that were strictly thus there to help people with VA benefits. And I know of one, I did a sword from it not too long ago, that later became essentially merged with an insurance company. That his whole purpose was to help veterans, and it was like set up by a veteran to help veterans get benefits from the VA in like 18 whatever. Like, we don't have internet, we don't have phones. You know what I mean? If you live in a different state and the VA is like maybe harder for you to get to, like, it would give you an easier way to like figure all this stuff out, and like, how do I get my benefits? How do I like get to see a doctor about my leg or whatever, right? So that was a thing. It was, that became a thing. So there were several organizations that sort of nowadays would be like a non-profit, right? You'd have like a non-profit organization, and it would collect money and from like charity, and they'd have like online stuff, and you'd have like events to collect money and like fundraisers, right? Back then, fundraisers were a lot less of a thing, and you'd have these other organizations, and people would collect dues, like like you collect at like a church for tithes for that organization, or like the older NRA, right? That's an old one. You might have heard of that, or like the Boy Scouts. I think they collect dues, don't they? Like, I know they also do fundraising now, but I think they used to only collect dues, and I'm not 100% certain on that one. But a lot of these older organizations, they collect dues from their members, right? And you get to be a member by collecting dues, and they would give you all of these benefits. And that sort of model was sort of used a lot of organizations at the time because modern fundraising was just not where it is today, right? Because modern, you know. So there's a lot of organizations like that that were around, and they did lots of jobs that nowadays other things do and do better, which is why a lot of them aren't around anymore. But some of them still exist. I know this what was it? What did they call it? There's a group that was like it's sort of like a Friends of the Arabs type group that is very weird and hard to describe. And they ran around and had like parades and stuff, and they had their own swords that. And one of the big things they do is they did a lot of work helping create hospitals and like literally like building hospitals. And there are like dozens of hospitals that they at least partially funded. Um, and it's still around today, but it's like a fraction of what it was because it's no longer like a big part of what it was like we get all these members and we donate money and we'd use these to build hospitals in all these places. But like a lot of a big part of their existence was fundraising this, and that was sort of done for a couple reasons. One, like you need fucking hospitals, you need fucking medical care, right? But also because they were this pseudo Arabic group, it was like even though like nowadays, right? Racism is bad. Like a lot of people sort of understand that. A lot of people understood like, hey, what's going on with racism against like African Americans and like the slave days especially. But like since then, it's not good, right? But a lot of people were less on board. Like they were all on board with like if you say, hey, freedom of religion, what do you think about that? In like 1900, people would be like, it's great. But then we say, what do you think about Arabic people coming here? They're like, we don't like it, right? So, or not just Arabic people, other people. But this was something that would help make people. Well, now you had to add into the conversation. Well, they're also building all these hospitals. It made a lot of people sort of think twice about being racist against Arabic people because this pro-Arabic group was running around building hospitals and like actually legitimately saving lives in a time when people were a lot less accepting of that sort of, like being different type stuff. So yes, they were running around building hospitals, but there was like, and that's great, but there was also like partially a reason for that was like helping fight racism and what would the word be? What is if it's a Jew, it's anti-Semite. What is the word for people who hate Islam or Muslims and whatever? I'm sure there is a word. I have no idea. But that. But for a lot of the Arab people who at the time were fleeing, the Middle East because 1900, right? What's going on in 1900 in the Middle East? Well, you have the Young Turk Revolt, and I believe it was like in 1906, where the Ottoman Empire was falling apart. And you had all these rebellions, and then before that, you had like there's a ton of rebellions from various countries like Greece and Crete and whatever were going independent and fighting the Ottomans. So there was like a fair number of wars going on. It wasn't like just one or two. And there's a lot of chaos, and then there's a lot of people going to Germany from what used to be the Ottoman Empire. And there's also people coming to America, although not as many as some other places. In part because, distance. But, land of the free American dream, all that jazz. People coming to America. And that was one of the ways some of the people who could afford to were, trying to become a more accepted. by people who weren't used to, seeing Arabic people, and maybe weren't so happy about it because our culture just hadn't quite got there yet. To be like for like Irish people used to be so racist against Irish people like so long ago, right? Because so many came here during like the potato famine, and that was just like being racist against Irish people was like a thing, and then people were racist against Polish people for a while, once upon a time, because so many people came from Poland because of like World War One and World War Two, and then like now it's a Soviet state, and like yeah, people wanted out. So many people from Poland came to America that like there's all these Polish jokes for a long time, and like nobody does them anymore. Nobody like even remembers it. Like this thing that used to be like it's like like the dumb blonde jokes. Like if you remember those, like that used to be a thing for Polish people like way back in the day during the Cold War. I think I got them all. Yeah. And nowadays, like, if you're a young person, you're like, what? What? But I thought they're only racist against, people who look different. They're racist against other white people? What? Yes, that was the thing. Our ancestors used to be like, well, you're white, but you're not the right type of white. That was the thing. It was like, oh, right. I don't know. I don't know. It's racism is weird. It doesn't make sense. It never made sense. In my opinion. Like, I get it. It's like other, but like, it's completely arbitrary what other is. When it's like, in that sort of situation. Like, I can understand to a degree, like, oh, you're an entirely different species. You're an alien, right? There is like some physical differences there. There's some cultural differences there. Not just like because you grew up in a different culture, because like your brains actually work differently. Assuming do you like we've never met aliens. You know what I mean? Like who knows how? Like do they have brains? You know what I mean? Like whatever they have going on, like that could potentially make some sense to have like not racism, but like to treat them differently in part because they are different. And some of that might make some sense. Like, and I don't mean like that's different as like, screw those guys, they're, different species or whatever. Or I mean, like, I welcome our new alien overlords. But, please don't eat me. But, alright, non-memes. To be very, very, very slightly serious, um, there might be some differences that like really matter. Like, maybe yeah, I'm not it's speculating. Like, who knows? It's all speculation at this point. But there might be some legitimate differences that matter. Don't know what they are or will be because, it hasn't happened yet. But there might be. All speculation on people we've never actually met, if they even exist. There's a great quote I like. Two possibilities exist. We are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Because think about it. Like, okay, you have the mathematical formula for how many, how much people in the universe, and there should be this much alien life because it's this big and there's this many planets. So, math, right? And then but we haven't discovered any of them. We haven't discovered signs of any of them. We haven't, found them yet. So, is that math wrong? Is there something we don't know? Probably. Because, like, when I think about it, we're essentially looking at a 3D universe in one dimension. Because where we can look at everything from is so close together, relatively speaking, that we're essentially looking at a one eye, not two eyes. So we only have like a flat view of the universe from our perspective. We can't see it in 3D, much less see it close up. You know what I mean? That's garbage. So there's like this, and like there's so much stuff that we just can't see. Like so much of what we quote unquote know is that's our best guess. And as we get more and more information, lots of things that we think, well, this could be the case, but it's not likely. Well, why isn't it likely? We only have so much information. What is and isn't likely is based off of that information. But as we discover more information, we discover, well, some of the things we think aren't likely are, in fact, what's actually going on because we can only see a little tiny piece of what's going on. All right? As you see more and more, it starts to make sense. More stuff starts to make sense. Etc. I was going all over the place today. I think I already looted this place, and I looted that place. That place is empty. This place is empty. That's gotta be the last one. Yes, this is the last one. I did loot a lot of these guys. Loot. Do I want that? I kind of do. Alright. Bro, that's worth money. Sure. That's big. That's what 745. Okay. Come on. I need a. Yeah. Alright. How to make this fit? Yes. Grog. I'll leave that one. It's almost 200. It's kind of big. Sure. Fragment axe, cleaver, plank. You're out of space. You're out of space. Plus fragment, stick, plank. Almost finished looting this place. Sure. I'll leave those. These are worth 149. Yes. Okay, looted that. Looted this. Looted these. Did not loot all of them though. So I still gotta loot those things. Chad. Anywho. What else is going on? Saw really interesting sword the other day. It's looks like it's based off of a British 1821 or 1822 cavalry saber, the light one, not the heavy one. I always get the 21, 22 mixed up. So I think 21 is the cavalry, 22 is the infantry saber. And the 22 later gets the 1840. Well, they both basically get the 1845 blade. But the infantry one is the one that, got revived over and over and over. And ended up going up until, eventually replaced in 1895. And it was like the Gothic hilt, right? If you've seen a British sword, military sword, you've probably seen one at some point. The current model is the 97, which is based off the 95, so it's a slight modification. And it has the same blade that the 1892 version of the Gothic hilt got. Was a blade revision from the straight one. Anywho, so I saw a variation of the cavalry version, which was really, really good sword. I like it. The main problem, like the first blade, the main problem with it was it could cut a shallow wound very good. It had problems cutting deep wounds because it was a pipe-back blade. And pipe-back blades start to feel a lot of resistance in the cut once the cut goes as deep as the pipe is. And to counteract that, it's better to have a bigger edge, like a wider edge, so you can cut pretty deep with it. And then eventually... He's dead. That was quick. And by the time, the rest of it gets there, hopefully you're good. Alright. So, we could just keep knocking places over, alright? And then hit Blister Hill. But do we want to hit every single farm? I don't think so. We might hit, this farm just because it's in between on the way to stack, to sell all this stuff. But I don't think I want to hit every single farm. And I don't think I'm going to hit Rebirth. I think I'll hit this farm on the way to stack, sell all this stuff, and then go to Blister Hill. Although they have domesticated bulls, we would have to kill pack bulls. And I don't want to kill pack bulls. You know what? We'll leave the farms alone. Let's go to stack. Anywho, 1822, pretty all-around good sword. The 45 blade solved this issue by replacing it with a single fuller curved blade, which became the atypical saber blade. The difference between the infantry and the cavalry was this 4 inches of length, usually. Lots of British officers just sort of did whatever the fuck they wanted. It's not uncommon to see non-regulation stuff on British swords. Or American swords. Or a lot of other countries. That it depends on the time period, too. But somewhere around World War I or II, they started to be like... By World War II, it was a lot less common. By World War I, it was starting to get less common. And, oh look, there's our base. So nice, so pretty. Okay. So. Weapons. Anywho, so the blade's pretty good blade. This has the older 1821 or 22, whatever it is, blade, and it's still good. I have a similar blade on one of my, essentially So I have a weird sword. I have an Austrian 1850/61. It's probably, I don't know. It's one of them. The difference I've heard is in the scabbard, but I've never been able to find a good source on them other than one guy on YouTube. He's not a very big channel, and he doesn't link like anywhere I can see his sources. And if it's a book, he doesn't put the book in the thing, which is sort of like links pictures of the book or whatever. So I'm sort of like, is this guy right? Is he not right? I don't know. You know, I don't. So maybe he's right. Like he could be right, but he says the difference is in the scabbard, and that it was just a scabbard revision, but the blade's exactly the same. What I have is what appears to be a pipe axe blade, basically identical to what you see on the infantry or cavalry in 1821 and 22 in Britain. You'd also see similar pipe black blades on like the Navy sabers, but shorter and wider usually. From like the British or French 1837s. Britain and France, for some weird reason, during the early 1800s, like they'd always seem to have like if one of them trains a sword, the other one trains them like the same year or very very close to try to like keep up with the neighbors or whatever, because I don't know reasons. And like one of them would train and the other one would train like immediately. It's sort of weird, but that was a thing for a while. No explanation. I don't know. I don't know. It was a thing they did. It was kind of weird. So now, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but what I'm doing is taking away stolen from all of these. So if anyone gives me, I don't think anyone should give me a negative because they're stolen. But this sort of just ensures that that won't happen. Now, anywho, so the cool one I saw was basically the British saber, but it was fancier. So like they made some changes to various bits of it to make it more fancy. And the other big difference, besides it being fancier, was it had a lot more added to the guard. So normally you have a central bar and they have two bars on the right side. And a lot of times on the left side you'll have a little bar that sort of goes by some area, and sometimes it's a full bar on some models. They aren't all the same on how they do the bar. Sometimes it's a folding bar, different stuff. This one had the bar, but also had another secondary bar added to it, and a hole was looked like a hole in. So the way they had it is, instead of having all the bars connected as like one piece, they had different pieces, and then they had little holes in the main central bar, and the various bars would be peened through a hole. So there was like a little hole in the bar, and then the other bar would go to the central bar, and it would get really thin, like a nail. It goes through that little hole, and then be hammered on the other side, until it's like the end of it's like a mushroom, so it's sort of like attached. And there was one hole so you could tell that there was a bar missing. And where the bar was missing, I think, was on the right-hand side, not the left-hand side. So with right and left hand, imagine you are like sitting down, right? You have the sword in your hands, and it's in your right hand, and so it'll be as you are looking at the sword in your hand, the blade is pointing away from you, right or left. So that's sort of like to give you a direction of like so we're all looking in the same direction. Actually, I should be dumping these in here so that I can put them in the pack animals. And it's gonna be on pause. Getting distracted. Too many things at once. Oh no. So, it looks like it was missing a bar, and I think it was on the right hand. So instead of being the normal 3 bar, it would have been a 4 bar. And then an extra bar on the thumb side to protect you. And besides all that, It also had a crossguard, which is, extremely rare for a saber of all things. You see them more often on what's called a bilbo, no relation to Lord of the Rings. And The Hobbit. It's a Spanish sword that is a descendant of a rapier-like hilt. So it's like a cup rapier. But they tend to have more cut and thrusty blades that tend not to be at rapier lengths. So it's a shorter blade, usually used a lot in the military. But the one I have was a Royal Guard bilbo. But they're very interesting blades. They're very useful at giving you a lot of hand protection while being a cut thrust blade, similar to like the role a saber would play. So you see it a lot in Spain. You don't really see them outside of Spain all that much, and they're always straight, and they always can cut and thrust, but they're not always great at thrust cutting. They're usually at least okay at cutting, and they're always good at thrusting. And what did that tell you about Spain and how they use their swordsmanship? Well, not a whole lot, but something, right? We got a lot of armor, and this isn't gonna fit. Let's go to like one of you. Alright. Anywho. So, bilbos are cool. They sometimes have cross guards. What else have cross guards on non-traditional European swords? Not really all that much. Sometimes you'll see them on small swords and rapiers, but not always. You'll see it on some spadroons, but it's sort of like built into the guard, not like a big cross guard. This had a big curved crab hilt like, it's a crab hilt, sorry, type of small sword. So they tend to have big ones. But you also see crab hilt like ones on more European sabers. So a crab hilt is essentially you have two quillions, right? But they're sort of curved together like a crab's claws. Usually pointed towards the enemy, not towards your hand. And the point of this curve is so that if someone gets their sword stuck in the quillion, you can twist a little bit and get the blade stuck in between the blade and the quillion, and sort of control movement left and right. And because it's curved, they also can't pull it upwards and slide along the blade. They have to pull it in or push it out, meaning you can use that to put both hands on your sword, move the tip away from you, and then as you move your sword closer to them, you can control the angle their sword is pointed, and the only way they can get it out is by pulling it in or pulling out, or walking around to pull that at a different angle. But they have to move significantly more than you have to move, so that you can keep up with them faster than they can keep up with you. So it's a way of trapping the blade. That's very effective. It's the same idea behind a sai, which could be described as a crab hilt, I guess. I wouldn't describe it as a crab hilt, but it kind of is. What do we want to sell? I want to sell that. I'm just using this as a vehicle in which to move all the stuff from the individual people to the animals before selling. Which, I don't really have to do this. It's just something I can do while I talk about this cool sword. Anywho, so, crab hilt. You don't see them very often on sabers, so that makes it interesting. Actually, I don't want that. And it also has like all these extra bars, and also has like an extra fancy pommel. There's that's all this stuff going on this sword, making it more interesting than normal. With for collectors, that's like, it's the Holy Grail. It's like, yes, very exciting, very exciting. Anywho, so that makes it already like this very interesting sword. But on top of all this, like normal, like, hey, there's cool stuff going on, right? Um, this could go somewhere else, and that makes room for you. Yes. Like, you have all the different pieces, and supposedly it was found in Mexico, which is gets it's just like, wait, what? And so, fun fact about Mexico, it's not had a lot of history of stability, and as a result, and a lot of times throughout history, Mexico's not super well documented. So, it's also had the word warranted on it. So that's used to be an old British proof mark, saying, "Hey, this is warranted, never to fail," or "this warranted," and that is sort of like a guarantee, except for it's not really, because a lot of times they'd send them overseas, and like, what are you gonna do? Travel halfway around the world to say, man, I spent $100 on this sword and it did not perform to my satisfaction. I want my money back. It happened. It broke like 5 years ago. It took me that long to fucking get here. Not really, but you know what I mean. Like, it's so much effort to fucking go all the way around the fucking world to complain about a broken sword. Like, nobody fucking did it. You know what I mean? Like, they would just not order from them again. And a lot of times it goes through many hands before it got to you. So it's not like, and sometimes like maybe what you got wasn't what you thought it was or what it was stamped. Because, people fake stuff today, people fake stuff back then. You could, like nowadays you get like Amazon scams where you buy something and it comes from some factory in China. And it's not actually the name brand, it just claims to be the name brand. Like, that was going on. It's been going on since the dawn of time. You know what I mean? Like, that's not new. Sell that. I don't want to sell the heads because they're very expensive. And this guy's gonna go broke immediately if I do. He already can't afford more than one. Meanwhile, I can afford so many swords. Alright. So we already know, okay, it's made in probably Britain or Germany, because Germany, Solingen especially, made lots of swords for British soldiers around the time this style of sword was being made. It's the older style of blade used from 1822 to 1845. It was probably from around then. It is etched, which means it's probably 40, 50, 60s. So if it was British, it probably wouldn't have that style of blade past 1845. Probably. I've seen a couple cases where they're like, well, we like the older style, right? Because, officers had a lot of leeway on what they could get. They could sort of do whatever to a degree, especially if it was overseas. If it was overseas, there were no rules, right? When you come back to court and go see the queen and get knighted and whatever, it maybe matters a bit more to be like wearing the right stuff. But if you're overseas, nobody gives a damn. Nobody. Like, seriously. Like, no one. It was extremely common for people to, for instance, wear talwars in India, or tulwars, or talwar, or however you say it, because it's like 100+ different languages and 200-300 different dialects. And the correct answer is no, there is not a correct answer. Everyone, like, there's a million different ones that people that say different, well, actually like a billion different people. A lot of them say it differently. There isn't one correct way to say it. With, I've seen it spelt so many ways. My favorite, I think, is tool war. Toolwar, like war. Tool war. Which is kind of funny. And that was not a native spelling, that was a European spelling it. So, take that for what you will. But it's kind of funny. But, anywho. So, probably because it was at no earlier than maybe 1840s. And because of that style of blade, probably no later than like 1850s or 60s. Alright? So I got a general time period, but not like an exact time period. The style of that thing is nothing too unique. Like European saber, but it could be, any European saber. But also because Europe made a lot of the sabers, it could be an American saber. It could be South American saber. Like, you find stuff, from some pathology in every country. I've seen, I think it's the New York Met has this. It's a Tanto, so a Japanese sword knife. Use one of the like if you've seen like the ritualistic suicide stuff in films and movies, like that is what they would use. And it was a Tanto, and it has the word Solingen on it. And somehow, I don't know how, somehow a Tanto made its way there, like a legit Tanto made its way to fucking Japan in like I think it's dated to like the 1600s. How did it get there? I don't know. I could guess, but it would be a guess. You know what I mean? Like my best guess, there was a lot of trading of trade blades with India. So maybe an Indian trader, or more likely someone who traded with Indian traders, bought that blade, went over to Japan, or maybe, was on a ship and it got raided by pirates. So, one of which was Japanese. That's my two theories, two for the price of one. The pirate thing is actually somewhat more plausible than you'd think. The whole Ronin thing was like the master of the samurais. Some of the samurais would kill themselves when their master died. A lot of them wouldn't. How many? We're not really sure. But like of the exact numbers, because like the master of the samurai, what they do is they just leave, become a Ronin, traveling, samurai with no master, and right, I should probably keep the high grade. There was a high grade one. If I'm gonna keep the high grade, I get rid of that. Oh, you can't afford that. Okay. Alrighty. Anywho. So a lot of them became pirates, and because a lot of them became pirates, a lot of them ended up on Chinese, especially pirate ships, because China's navy wasn't great, and they had a lot of trade though. So a lot of people would go become pirates to go after the trade, and got stuff from like all over Southeast Asia and the Indian Ocean and whatever. And so something bound for India might have ended up in a Chinese pirate fleet with a Japanese person who might have, made a Tanto out of it. Maybe. But this seems like a good place to end this episode. We've started it in Mongrel. We've raided some stuff. We came away to the military base, raided that, came to Stack. Next stop, Blister Hill, and we will destroy it. Finally take out the Ochre Knights forever and see our first really big world change. We've seen the little ones with Stack and Baptiste. This is going to be the first major one. The entire Holy Nation will be destroyed. We will become allies, very good allies, with these guys if we turn him in here. Or we could turn him in to these guys, get 50 rep. But not sure if I want to do that, because they're next. But I'll probably just turn them in and make good friends forever with these guys, the Shrek Kingdom, and that'll be that. And there will be no more Holy Nation. So next episode is going to be actually somewhat challenging, because fighting the Emperor he is tough, and he has a ton of guards that are better than your average Inquisitor. So I think it's like 10 of them or something. So we might actually have people die in the next one. Like, this will be the most interesting episode for a long, long time. But until then, to be continued. See ya.